to take the next step, as the case may be. I am delighted to announce that as of today, we have 22 partners who are now working with us. And then we also have our media partners, including the NTA, the AIT, the Channels Television, News Agency of Nigeria, Arise News, Flick On, Digital Converge, AD4, and several others who are online. We are very delighted that these people have joined us, and indeed, we look forward to a robust engagement with our partners. The other partners, beside the media partners, are the Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities, Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, Civil Liberties Organization, Historical Society of Nigeria, Nigerian Economic Summit Group, Center for Values in Leadership, Trade Union Congress, WISCA, Nigerian Women Foundation of Nigeria. Dr. Oladele, you are muted. Can you unmute yourself, please? Dr. Oladele.
The Executive Secretary, I have done that already.
Okay. Dr. Rotimi Oladele is a distinguished Nigerian, a former Managing Director of Tribune Newspapers, former President, Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, a Fellow of Institute of Directors, a Fellow of NIPR, and many other distinguished crowns. But because of time, Dr. Oladele, you have the floor, sir. Thank you.
Executive Secretary, thank you, sir. I want to allow panelists to have the fullest time ever possible. So I will not spend 1 minute out of their time. And because the nation at large is waiting for this wonderful exercise, which is going to be delivered by distinguished Nigerians from different walks of life and different experiences. The panelists who are active role players, with the support of the distinguished supporters and technical partners we have so far who are present on this platform, I want to go straight to invitation to Senator Ibrahim Ida, the Sardauna Katsina, a Nigerian with a difference when it comes to analysis, critical analysis of situation into pragmatic practice and presentation, who believes in thorough execution of anything ideal for this nation. So we listen to him for 15 minutes before I call another distinguished Nigerian. I don't want to mix their identities now so that we can savor their personality individually and distinguishedly. So my distinguished senator, sir, you have the floor.
Well, first of all, I cannot see you. I cannot see, I could not have seen you. I hope people, everybody is seeing me, I hope.
Yes, I can see you, sir.
You can hear me also.
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
I can see you clearly and I can hear you.
Anyway, okay, you said I have 15 hours to go.
15 minutes, sir.
Okay. Starting in 5 minutes time. First of all, good evening to all. First of all, to my colleagues, the panelists, to the organizers, the moderator, and indeed to all those who have linked up to watch and hear what we say. It is my pleasure to be with you, and within the next 10 minutes, I hope, I should be able to make my presentation. I have a paper which I will present. I'm not going to read it, but occasions may demand that I read a portion of it. And I go now. I think I should really say that the topic, rethinking leadership, with focus on diversity, integration, and inclusion, could not have come at a better time. And I particularly commend it for two reasons. The first reason is that really it goes into the problem of Nigeria. That is the weaknesses, the shortcomings, and the overall problem of leadership. Since coming into being, we have had this problem, and we thought at any point in time, we thought we will overcome it. But by the day, it is becoming more acute. And my second reason for commending the topic is that I notice that inherent or tangential to the topic is also another issue of that has bearing on that, and that's the fact that up to this point in time, we really have not, as a people, come up with a clear criteria as to what qualifications our leaders should have. We still feel that if you have a lot of money, or you have godfathers, or that you can be able to talk your way through, you can get a political power. So my presentation now will dwell more in the area of political or power and authority, as it really confers legitimacy and ability to act on leaders. Now, it is my considered view that first of all, we should understand within the context we are talking, what do we really mean by leadership? Because, I mean, even in your house, a husband is a leader. When three people are traveling, well, somebody is a leader. But within this context, what do we mean by leadership here? And I said this, leadership within the context of this presentation is a process of authoritative social influence and coordination of efforts of others to achieve specific set of goals and objectives. Leadership is about the use of political or moral power to influence others by what you say or what you do. True leadership is much more than having the recognition and the legal authority to do what you like. It is also about developing people to be what they can be and or what they want to be. A good leader guides and helps those he or she leads to their full capabilities and assists them to attain their full potential. Now, that is really the understanding of leadership that I have. Now, to be in that position of a leader, you have to have certain attributes. And to me, these attributes include, you have to have integrity. Two, you have to be able to account for whatever the resources, people, or whatever is thrusted upon you. You have to have humility. You have to be humble, not arrogant. Don't take yourself above others. You have to have resilience to be able to be a shock observer. You have to have a vision of a mental perception of a future that is better than now. And there should be positivity. You have to be an optimist, be positive thinking. A good leader is also expected to have the ability to manage diversity and the expertise and knowledge of how to integrate diverse people, groups into a functional whole. Very importantly also, the leader must have the interest and desire of each person or groups in the galaxy, thus giving each member of the society a sense of belonging. That you cannot be a good leader until you imbibe these qualities, until you understand them, and until you know them. Now, if we apply that to our country, Nigeria, Nigeria is a country, as everybody will say, of diverse ethnic groups, religions, and traditions. And each group has a unique traditional and cultural experience that define the attitudes and the mindsets of its members. This is very important. Unfortunately, and this is really unfortunately, according to many experts, the country is yet to come to terms on how to manage this diversity. Problems keep recurring, and the need to address them is becoming more and more compelling. Apparently, as if we don't seem to know what to do. If some people are not claiming that they are marginalized, others are saying that they are coerced, or some people are exposed to so many social issues that they ask, where is the leadership? Or more specifically, the government that's supposed to protect them. Indeed, it is this type of thing that is really creating so much problem that people are even thinking, what the hell? Why should we be together if we cannot progress, if we cannot develop? There's a general feeling that because of inability to manage the diversity, some segments of the country are bringing others down, or they are holding the country to ransom. Now, it is important to mention that in any multi-ethnic and heterogeneous society like ours, there are certain good governance. You have to have them. And inclusivity is one of them. Where people feel excluded from the affairs of a society, it becomes very difficult for them to be committed to its cause, much less to really respect it. And it is the political leadership that creates that sense of inclusiveness. It's also the leadership that integrates the diversity into a whole. Now, I have raised the three concepts of management that are germane to leadership, which we are required to focus attention on. And this is diversity, inclusion, integration. And I think it is only that we should understand what these terms are, which incidentally we are required to focus as we think of leadership in this dialogue. Simplicity. Diversity is the dimension that differentiates and groups from one another. Applied to a country, it refers to the various interest groups, ethnic, religious, sectional, social, and political, that are embedded within the confines of that country. A proper management of a country's diversity involves convincing people to respect and appreciate what makes them different from one another, as well as the similarities they share. The differences may be age, gender, ethnicity, religion, ability, education, etc. But in the whole, it is really the management of these differences that is referred to as an effective management of diversity. In a diverse entity, all shades of differences and opinions should be reflected and included in the final analysis of decisions. Inclusion, on the other hand, is where groups or individuals are different, whose different backgrounds are culturally, socially, economically, and even politically brought together, welcomed, and are equally and fairly treated. Each individual member of the group is subjected to the same treatment. Differences could be self-evident, that is like gender, ethnicity, and other, or they could be inherent, such as where levels of education differ or certain exposures differ. But in the final analysis, inclusiveness entails getting all this together so that each person feels respected, appreciated, and valued for who they and what they are as individuals and as a group. And this is really what enhances people's commitment to a state. Integration is where a leader takes deliberate steps or action to bring people together in the spirit of one for all and all for one. Such a leader must have the ability to influence those he leads to the extent that any decision or action he takes would be in the interest of the majority, if not all of the people. And the people and the groups are empowered to think, talk, and act in accordance with the given sense of belonging. Everyone is also on the same page with regards to what is right, what is just, what is fair, what is timely, and what is honorable. Therefore, we see that for there to be a good leadership, there must be a combination of this. Not one of them, not two of them, When combined, the three concepts are the building blocks that enhance the well-being of society. I seem to be off of the society. And when proper attention is given to them, the right atmosphere is created for national integration. This in turn will create the right environment for an integrated and inclusive governance. Well, while we can say that it is not all rosy, it is fair to say that in spite of everything, things are not all bad in the country. There are still some areas where we are registering some positivity. It is not yet Uhuru, but there are some areas where we have or are making some progress. Our women are beginning.
Excuse me, sir. Just to announce that you have 4 minutes left.
4 minutes?
Yes, sir. 4 minutes more.
Okay, fine. Okay. So really, we found that we are making some inroads. Our women are beginning to make inroads into the society, politically, economically, and in terms of positions. And also, we are making, an inroad in the area of treating our people with disability. With regards to our people with physical disabilities, what is not appreciated is that in many cases, these people are even better than the ordinary one of us. But until now and until recently, there seems to be, if not a neglect, but a policy or a process whereby they are not given what they are due. And I feel that should change. The makeup of our society has always been made up of people of diverse backgrounds. And I feel that if we can get all this together, we can move forward and there will be no more calls for separation, breakup, and even the problem of insurgency, kidnapping, and what have you can be effectively checked. And I say this, what other question that is also, that I want to ask here, are we to continue in the path we are going and ruin the great future that is within our grasp? Or are we going to adopt a more positive attitude in order to realize our potentials? I hope someone here will give me the answer. Another question is, what is really stopping our nation from achieving true national integration? And I said, it is really the lack of inclusiveness, the lack of integration, and the inability to manage our diversity. What should be done? I have some very few suggestions that I think should be. First of all, our country should embrace, through legislation or progress, a culture of managing diversity and promotion of inclusiveness in all its ramifications. It should also adopt a policy of tackling all biases through sensitization, public enlightenment, and affirmative action. And when I talk about affirmative action here, I don't mean that we should continue with the problem of segmenting our society, giving one particular set of students a lower cut-off points than others. That is not helping. It might help within the short term, but in the long term, it is not. Our education system should also be reformed and reviewed so that right from the cradle, a child should know that he's part of a bigger whole, that he's part of a diverse group. And finally, as we go forward to build a nation where peace, progress, so I'm writing up now. As we go forward to this, let us not forget that what we need to do is to ensure that we build a nation in this country that is socially and culturally harmonious, politically tolerant, ethnically accommodating, and definitely religiously tolerant. I thank you very much. I thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much, my distinguished. We didn't expect anything less from you as your usual self. The what we heard from the Sardauna Katsina, the leadership broken down to social influence, coordination of efforts of order, developing people to make the best out of their ability, the need for accountability. Then this requires a process. Before we attain leadership, we must learn and understand what actually it portends. Then expectation of the stakeholders from us as leaders. However, the failure to grab the fabric and the trends of diversity remains a leadership challenge. And that is why we're having the derivatives of ethnicity and exclusion instead of inclusion. However, he ascertained that we are still making progress in spite of all our challenges. There are inroads where we are making good efforts. And we could see that in the ability and capabilities of our women. Thank God we have a good number of them on this program. And we are going to have it direct from the powerful women around. Then he also suggested the need for synergy required to lead us out of agitation for separation. Rather than pursuing separation, segmentation, we should be looking for those things that bind us together, strengthening them, sharing them better, and use them as causatives of policy making. So that is how true national integration will come. We'll be able to do more.
Audio of the moderator is slightly gone. And are you back, sir? Okay, he was trying to summarize the of Senator Ida's paper. I'm happy to announce that Senator Ida has graciously made the paper available to us. So we should share it. He made 5 outstanding recommendations that it will be very important for us to note that these things are very live to the survival of the society. He mentioned an issue which I consider very important to many of us, and that is the challenge of exclusivity. When people are excluded, it creates tensions in the society. And Senator Ida has advanced a very strong course that we must be inclusive. We must not be exclusive in any way so as to reduce tension in the society. Thank you very much, sir. At this point, I will have to go to the next speaker. The profile has been shared. Therefore, I will not spend time in introducing her. Her face is a very well-known face when it comes to women advocacy in this country. She rose to become a Minister of Women Affairs in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Join me to welcome Iyom Josephine Aneni. Madam Iyom, you have the floor. Please unmute yourself. You have 10 minutes to tell us all you have to say about the challenge of inclusivity, integration, and diversity of the nation. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good evening, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I want to start by thanking the Prize for Leadership for granting me this honor and privilege to discuss with the very distinguished Senator Ibrahim Ida and other distinguished Nigerians at this dialogue series. I'll start with a quote from Chinua Achebe. It says that the trouble with Nigeria is simply and squarely a failure of leadership. This quote frames the relevance of a discussion about solving Nigeria's problems at such a conference as this, where we have past leaders, present leaders, and future leaders. The topic, the theme, rethinking Nigeria, rethinking leadership is very appropriate at this time. We have to rethink our leadership pattern. We have to unlearn some things and relearn others. We've had various discussions over the years, and even in this MPL, about leadership. And various discussions have highlighted that the fact that poor leadership has been the bane and has hindered the progress and development of this great country. Nigeria, blessed with all the resources and potentials it has, could easily have been the richest and strongest country in the world. But today, we have a country that is lying comatose. We have a country that's almost on the brink of collapse. We have a country that some people are saying it is almost a failed country. And that is because of bad leadership and rapacious leaders. Distinguished Senator Ida has told us everything, has refreshed our minds about what leadership is, what it should be, and what it should be not. So I'm not going to go into that. We know it. I'll just concentrate on the focus, which is diversity, inclusion, and integration. The MPL is doing the right thing by providing a platform for us, Nigerians, to look ourselves squarely in the mirror and tell ourselves the truth. Decide to right the wrongs of past decades. We know everything that is wrong. It is now time to do the right thing. And it has to be a conscious decision. One thing that has been found is that democracy demands inclusion and the integration of all. Diversity is an asset, and diversity speaks against discrimination, demonization, and exclusion. Nigeria will do well to realize that the population is as diverse as it can be, but it is a blessing. And we can be better enriched if we embrace our diversity and use our diversity for our progress. There are different ethnicities, we know, religions, culture, age, physical abilities, and disabilities. But everybody must be included in the planning and running of this country. Diversity is a tool for the elimination of discrimination. It promotes fairness and equity. For me, to rethink leadership is to look at areas where past leadership has fallen short of acceptable standards. I see the area of inclusion and inclusiveness as wanting in our former leadership. Past and present leadership has not seen the necessity nor the advantage of inclusiveness in all areas. It is all right to say that women have made an inroad, youth have made an inroad, the disabled, the people living with abilities are now being recognized after so much advocacy and agitation. But it is still tokenism, it is still token, that's not what when we say inclusion or inclusiveness, we are talking of proper and complete inclusion. I particularly want to mention the marginalization of persons due to the fact that, just for the fact that they are women. You will hear people saying that this is not a matter for women to be involved in, especially when it comes to decision making. Women are consciously or unconsciously excluded. Today, We have insecurity that is almost consuming us. We have a security council, but there's no woman there. So there is no perspective. And it is the women and the children that are bearing the brunt of the insurgency, the wars, and everything that is happening. The insecurity, robbery, kidnapping is the women that are bearing the brunt. But they don't even have a platform anywhere to say or to is happening. In the past, before the colonial people came, at least in my community, we had what I term dual sex governance. The men had their area assembly. At the executive level, we don't have. I want to see if we are serious that we want to do things, right the wrongs and start a new form of leadership. We must consciously recruit women into leadership. We must have women as governors. We must have a woman as a president or vice president of this country. Why can't a woman be the Senate president or the speaker in the lower house of assembly? We need to have everybody involved. We also need the elderly people like us that are elderly. We have worked, we are still able to work, but once we retire, the society thinks we should just disappear. No, everybody must be included. The youth, the disabled. So what I'm saying in short is that Nigerians have to be conscious and how would I say it? I have to be conscious and decide that they want a new system of leadership. So our system of recruiting leaders, we will look at it. This question of, Senator Tido mentioned it, people will just come because they have money, you give them. You are not asking what is their qualification, what can they add? And so you find you find leaders who don't have the interest of the nation at heart, who don't. I'm seeing the Ike's mouth moving. Are you stopping me?
I'm saying that you have 2 minutes to round up. It's on
you have this. Okay, you have. I don't know now. You have.
Sorry, man.
You have disorganized my thoughts.
Sorry,
but like I said, summarily, all ethnicities in this country must be treated equally. A country where a group, like my group, Igbo people, are looked as if they are not part of this country is unacceptable. That is what is causing people to now ask, for separation and things. We must bring everybody together. I want a Nigeria that includes everything. I want the next president to be somebody from Igbo land, Igbo extraction. The Southeast Development Commission should be passed into law so that it can deal with the development commitments that was made after the Civil War and all that. Every society must be made to feel that they belong, so that there will be no apathy and there will be no sense of exclusion or discrimination or marginalization. So thank you very much for now. I see to talk, but let me stop for here.
If it cannot be anything more, but at least because that will give you a seat on the National Security Council. And you made a very strong case that women bear the brunt of what normally happens when the environment is tensed up. Yesterday, somebody was trying to strengthen this. Person argued that men are highly challenged. On the issue of armed robbers, men has the majority. and they are either somebody's sister, somebody's brother or somebody's father, and it is the wives that will bear the brunt. And then the person went on to say all manner of things that make them vulnerable. And at the end of the day, it is the women, being mothers, that bear the brunt. So we hear you, Watchman. You also talked about the challenge of this has affected the Nigerian states. Thank you very much. Somebody asked a question, why don't we have sign interpreters or sign translators? Since we say that this is inclusive, may I confirm to the person that we actually made arrangement for. And Ghana Deborah is handling this very well, and she has been live on the platform. And if you screen, you will see that she's doing her work, and she's doing it very, very well. Next on the plate, who took it, brought it up, and has nurtured it. Join me to welcome Jake Epele, who is the CEO and founder of the Albino Foundation and the convener, Disability Inclusion Nigeria. Mr. Jake Epele, you have the floor. Please keep to 10 minutes. And as you speak, watch the screen, because when it is 5 minutes, we normally indicate on the screen that it is 5 minutes. And when it is 2 minutes, we indicate on the screen that you have 2 minutes. We do this so that people can manage their flow. But when it now becomes necessary, we have to interject because we want to keep to time. Otherwise, we will run the wrong way for this. Thank you very much. Mr. Jake, you have the floor. We can't hear you, Jake. We can't hear you.
Say that, again, I said when one person is left behind, others no forward. I want to also to achieve an open society. Inclusive leadership. To talk to my fellow panelists because of time, I want to talk to us on leadership. With that, I will also want to commend the topic dealing with and summarize rethinking leadership, reinventing leadership, which is what we need in this country. We need to reinvent leadership. That said, I think distinguished Senator and Her Excellency Iyom had done a good job trying to define leadership. And so I'm not going to go into defining leadership for the want of time, but I would like to point out 3 basic principles of leadership. One is influence. Influence. Every leader must have the gift of influence. 2 is followership by choice. You're not a leader if people cannot follow you by choice. People shouldn't follow you by force because force breaks. Choice empowers. So followership by choice. The 3rd principle that defines leadership is mutual vision. People will not follow you as a leader if they cannot find their place in your vision. And so for you as a leader, You must have a vision that you're willing to share with everybody that you want to that you desire to follow you. And when people find their place in your vision, they follow you until that vision is achieved. So a leader must be a visionary leader. Now, remember that I'm dealing with the concept of inclusive leadership. Now, inclusive leadership requires three things. Number one, diversity. Diversity. An inclusive leader is diverse in both his opinion, his action, in his deeds, in everything he wants to achieve. If you fail to be diverse and recognizing diversity, then you're not an inclusive leader, but you are a transactional leader. Number two is collaboration. Collaboration. An inclusive leader collaborates. An inclusive leader's signature is synergy. The ability to bring diverse kind of people to the table, harness their potential, make them feel comfortable in their space, but make the most of everybody. So collaboration is key. Number three, which is this is where I fit in. This is my forte. Participatory leadership. I'm a participatory leader. I go to the table not with my decision per se. I go to the table with suggestion and give everybody on that table the ability to contribute to my suggestion. Once the suggestion is adopted by everyone, it becomes everyone's decision. When people find their place in your decision, they will commit their life. That's why I make bold to say, to the glory of God, that there are people in my organization that have worked with me for over 20, 25 years, and they stick with me. Why? Because they have found the picture of their future in your structure. I repeat, they found the picture of their future in the structure that you're building. If people cannot find their future in what you do, they go away from your structure no matter whatever you're trying to do. And so it is important, if you want to pursue the concept of inclusive leadership, then you must recognize the need to be a participatory leader. I don't know, looks like, I hope I'm not, okay, good. So, with the next 4 minutes, I will tell you what my recommendation, which they are present, them the opportunity to thrive and not be insecure. Feel comfortable in your space to allow others to thrive. Number two is all-inclusive governance. All-inclusive governance, where everybody is given the opportunity to contribute to nation building. Where everybody is given the opportunity to contribute to nation building. All tiers of government must recognize all is not recognized, but everyone is authentic. We want a leader that is inclusive, not exclusive. We want a leader that builds a future for people. On a final note, there are three things that makes a great leader. And these three things also destroy a leader that is not great. One, power. How you use power. Number two, money. Your quest money at all costs. Number three is sex. your desire and untamed passion for illicit sex. It is important, ladies and gentlemen, that as a leader, beware of these three things. As a leader, give power to the people. As a leader, be accountable, be responsible, and responsive to the needs of the people. And as a leader, please, there are three things you must avoid. They say, girls, glory.
Thank you very much. That's another powerful, short and powerful one from with a difference. Mr. Pele was able to call our attention to the importance of inclusive leadership that drives unity and development. Inclusive leadership, every stakeholder must find himself in the picture of the future of the organization an inclusive leader is driving. So it means that everybody matters. Sincerity of purpose, and we must be careful. Power, how we.
So all of this for me has thrown up, a question as to our present leadership style and structure. On my part, I'll be narrowing my intervention to a particular subset of people who are extremely diverse, and in trying to understand how this subset of people have been involved in the leadership all this while in this country, and the impact of leadership on this subset of people. And this subset of people are no other people than 15 to 20% of the population of this country, which I think is too large a number to be ignored in any development effort. I speak about my people, people that I lead, people with disabilities. And if we are 15 to 20% of 200 million, I can't remember my arithmetic very well, but I know we are hitting 30 million and above. You agree with me that, honestly, we've been left behind, and we are too large a population to be ignored, and we don't want to be ignored any longer. So I'm asking the question, why did it take this long? How come we've been left behind? What are the issues? What is it that we need to talk about exactly? And so I am narrowing it down to impairment, as it were. So because we are people with disabilities, it's very obvious we have impairment. But what we are saying here in this leadership discourse is that that impairment is not strong enough, to take away our leadership skills, or would that impairment be too strong to exclude us from the leadership of this, country? So we don't want to be invisible anymore. We are extremely invisible. We are extremely, extremely invisible. So our invisibility would have been because of perception, or because of thinking of society, about this subset of people called persons, with disabilities. And so we are saying, let us rethink leadership alongside rethinking disability. We cannot think leadership without rethinking what disabilities is. So in thinking disability, I want us to look at it from this perspective. So I'm going to be submitting to us another school of thought around disability. Perhaps this will help us learning so many things which has led to our consistent exclusion in leadership, or perhaps help us to relearn another set of things that will see how much the country has been losing for excluding people with leadership and disability and leadership. So if you look at one of the UN Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which we have signed up to, says persons with disability include those who have long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairment which when in interaction with various barriers may hinder their full and effective participation in society on an equal basis with others. So my submission here is that the problem with the community of persons with disability from where the society thinks is impairment is not impairment. It is the barrier we face as people who have impairment. So moving forward and rethinking leadership, we have to take our eyes away from those impairments and look at the barriers that we face. Because as persons with disability, we are a diverse component of the society. We are talking of diversity. Diversity is beautiful. We have the right to exist the way we are, but we are saying that society is constructed in such a way that it was like a one-size-fits-all approach. We were not taken into consideration in constructing society. So in trying to participate, we meet various kinds of barriers. And these barriers is because we have impairment, and impairment is interacting with the way society is constructed. So taking this leadership conversation forward, we need to constructively rethink who persons with disabilities are and how to take their conversation, forward in leadership. Let me quickly talk about integration. If we're looking at, now you know that we have impairment, and the problem is not in our impairment, the problem has to do with the barriers that we face. It is our collective effort to look at addressing design intervention to addressing those barriers so that we can participate. So integration is the way to go, absolutely. And it's going to take some kind of progressive realization. We are going to be looking at disability issue in thinking of our new visioning. Now we are rethinking it. I'm sure we're going to be rethinking, we are going to be revisioning how we design and implement things. So in talking about integration, or reasonable accommodation. This is a technical term that has to do on how you make accommodation to disability to participate on an equal basis with others. We will look at things we call universal. And at this point in time, I will not thank President Mohammed for signing into law the disability bill. We now have a commission. To me, that is a very good entry point to talking about integration, so that collectively we can have our spaces and good. But this cannot happen if we don't have the affirmative action in place. Political participation, equalization of opportunities. Now permit me now to look at Article 29 of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and that is participation in political life. States shall guarantee to persons with disability equal rights and opportunities to enjoy them on an equal basis with others, that take so many steps to removing those barriers to political participation. So persons with disability have the right to participate in politics. It's just like any other vulnerable groups. My submission today and to helping us to rethink is that, please, could you just take your eyes away from our impairment for a minute and look at the barriers that we face in society to open up space for leadership, for inclusive leadership. Finally, I like to say that persons with disability are a natural part of any society, entitled to whatever right anybody has. So in rethinking leadership, we must consciously focus on removing the barriers that stand in the way of persons with disability in participating effectively in leadership. You don't know how much we have lost for living at persons with disability. We have lost so much because there's so much untapped resources embedded and persons with disability. We have a bunch of intelligent people who want to, join the construction of this country, who wants to join in national development. There's so much to offer, but we are ignoring that segment because there are certain barriers that we are facing. So my final landing on this is that we are very much available to serve. We have the answers to so many problems in this country. But could we collectively, at this point in time, begin to identify those barriers that is stopping us from effective participation? I challenge political parties. Where is the space for persons with disability in your structure? One day, can't we also be Senate President? Inyom, our mentor, has said women could be. I align my thoughts with her. What is wrong in us being governor? What is wrong with us being president? Roosevelt of the United States did give that example. So we are very, very available to serve. All I'm saying, let's remove those barriers and have, I can see 2 more minutes. Yes, I'm almost running off. And let us have that collective understanding. Let us now from henceforth begin to rethink disability. Disability is not, I can't see, I can't hear, I can't walk. No. Disability is all about the barriers that we face in society simply because of our diversity. And if we are here to celebrate diversity, we must appreciate diversity of people who have impairment. Then we must begin to look at society, those things that will stop us as those bunch of people who has that particular diversity from participating, which is about the barrier. At this point in time, I want to sincerely thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
I should go. Thank you very much. It looks like we have a slight challenge with the moderator. Judith, you have done a wonderful work. You are always a firebrand. It's as if it's in your bones. Thank you very much. As we rethink leadership, we must rethink disabilities. Very profound quote. One of the things we have to take out from here, because the issue of disability is not really in the disability or the incompetence of the person who may have some kind of disability to perform, but it's in the barrier that are created by those who have their perceptions of the disabled in one way. Dr. Oladele told us yesterday that he does not believe that everybody is disabled. The person may have challenge, physical challenge, but not disabled. And I agree with him because we've seen most of the things that those we refer to, we perceive as being disabled, yet they are very profound. Each time we go for Olympic competition, it is those that we regard as being disabled that come back with more gold medals rather than others. Thank you very much. You talked about universal redesigning, we're thinking visioning, and so on. Quite a lot that you have given to us this afternoon. We must lift the barrier of perception. We must lift this barrier. So many people have been asking questions. Your community on the platform, they've been asking questions. How should we get leaders to understand the peculiarities of those who need help, students, youth, women, and so on? But I think you have answered that question in one way or the other. You have appreciated the President Buhari, for signing into law the bill dedicated to those who are living with certain physical challenges. Actually, I understand that a commission has been created and the governing board is being put together now. So there is some measure of attention that is coming. So rethinking leadership is working. And we'll continue to rethink leadership and continue to raise issues until some of these things are addressed. It is one step at a time. Mrs. Iyom and anyway will agree with me that we have a proverb in the southern part of the country that when you thank a man and you praise him for the one he has done, the tendency is that he will like to do more. So we thank the president for signing that bill into law, and we ask for more. And we say that in setting it up, let it be entirely inclusive of all the communities of physically challenged. I understand you have about 9 clusters. No cluster should be left behind. All the 9 clusters should be part of this bill, of this commission rather. Thank you very, very much. I don't know if Dr. Oladele is back. Okay, Dr. Oladele, back to you so that you can bring up the next speaker.
Well, while bringing the next speaker, I want to mention that reasonable accommodation compliance is a new factor introduced by Lady Ekaete to our public space. Any organization that does not comply with this is not fit to be a Nigerian institution. So any company, any ministry that cannot account for a particular percentage of our so-called disabled on board should not be allowed to benefit anything that is meant for them as public service.
Absolutely.
Any landlord in all our cities who do not provide reasonable accommodation compliance. If you build a one-story building, you must have your ramp where the man will use to carry his bicycle. So we need to actually take reasonable accommodation compliance as a policy and put it across local government, state government, and federal, and make sure that it's working. That is what I've taken out of the paper, the presentation of Lady Ekaite. Now I want to introduce our next panelist, my brother Malam Akoshile Mukhtar, the Vice President of National Youth Council of Nigeria. Please, you have the floor, and you also have 10 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here. I must confess that I've actually learned a lot from earlier discussants. They've actually touched more on the topic of discussion, which is rethinking leadership on focus about diversity, inclusion, and integration. Senator Ida has did well, likewise our mother, Mommy Josephine Anene, and the representatives of the Albino Foundation. Well, as the topic implies, I'll be speaking on its implication on the young people, which is the youth. As we know that in Nigeria of today, governments and individuals, let me say individual corporate organizations are not giving much attention to young people. And you agree with me that about in the figure of today, Nigeria, we are about 200 million in population, and young people constitute about 60 or 70% of that number. And when each person speaks, the elderly will be saying they do not want to be retired. What about the young people? If we do not give the real essence, inclusiveness that it is needed. Hello, are you hearing me, please? If we do not give the young people the needed space, how do we build the future of the country? I know. Enabling environment on inclusion is expected to be created through relevant laws in the National Assembly. For instance, the young people recently pushed for the Not Too Young to Run bill, and this bill has entered in legislation. And as we speak, we are still battling on how that legislation can be followed and young people can be placed on its rightful places. It is so worrisome that unemployment is eating us hard in this country, and that is the reason why you see our young people roaming about the streets, being neglected in all sectors of life. A friend of mine told me recently that he bought employment for his wife at the rate of 800,000 in a ministry, and I have evidence of this. You quite agree with me that also recently there's an agency of government, FIRS, that gives lots of jobs to the legislatures, and there were even arguments within themselves on the principal officers sharing the slot within themselves. Where are we going in Nigeria? The young people has actually been excluded, and the topic is now trying to say how they can be included, because without the young people, Nigeria cannot get to the expected destination. When we talk about placing the young people in the rightful place, we'll talk about three very important keys that I need to also speak about, which is number one, consultative participation. When we talk about consultative participation, we have our colleagues that are very, very ready to take up leadership position through inclusion. For instance, a friend of ours was discovered by the late Baba Anini, and he was an essay to a former president of this country on youth development, youth and students, Judy Magwe. Judy Magwe was among the first persons, individuals, who was discovered and is doing well. And if consultative participation is being employed, Nigerian youth can be better off in all segments of the country. For instance, also in rural electrification, we have a young person as the MD and Ohari as the ED. And these two young men are doing fine. But if you do not have the opportunity to expose your talent, how do you feel that we are ready to take over the mantle of leadership? We shall also be discussing on youth-led participation, because if youth also are not being given the proper channel to expose their talents, we may not have the rightful opportunities for our young people. Recently, Mr. President graciously approved a sum of 75 billion at using to empower our young people, because everybody must have gone to school, but the white collar job may not be. So how do you ensure that they are not excluded, they are not pushed behind the back? We are now saying that Mr. President has now said okay, 75 billion is being approved so that it can be given as loan and grant. Portable, there is a special work that was also get from that was that politicians shared all what is supposed to go for young people within themselves. And the Minister of Labour, State Minister for Labour, was crucified in the Senate just because he was trying to defend himself that, see, these jobs are for some segment of the society and we have to stick to it. These are things that I believe that civil society activists have to stand up against. Because yesterday, the focal group submitted a preliminary report on how best we think that the 75 billion loan shall be used. But our fear is that will it not be hijacked by the powers that be? Our fear is that will the young segment of discussion that we put in writing, the observation, recommendation shall put in writing and be forwarded to National Assembly, the executive, and the legislative for proper action. Thank you, and God. Bless.
The law that is waiting for the youth to become participating leaders in the country here are in place, and we must allow
We seem to have lost the moderator.
Hello, are you here?
Okay, we can hear you now. Please go on, sir.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go on.
What I'm saying is that I found 4 letters. In the last 2 speeches, I found 2 letters. W-I-N-Y. These 4 letters, 4 W-I-N-Y. Women, impaired Nigerians, and youths. I will repeat, women, impaired Nigerians, and youths. When we remove it from our human resources, when we remove it from our policy making, when we remove them from our budget, we cannot perform because there's no list. What we are rethinking, and that is why the rethinking Nigerian title is very apt and very, very relevant. And I'm happy we have seen here the power in women, the power in impaired Nigerians, and the power in the youth. I don't see any other reason why our respected and amiable president will not sign not too young to run edit, like we have gotten the disability edit. I am very, very optimistic, and I'm very, very hopeful that that will happen soonest. It's part of what this roundtable will bring into place, because our report will get to the presidency.
Amen.
And the
Thank you
presidency
so much for that.
will surely look at it, but he loves of that. Thank you. I now want to invite my colleague and my brother, my professional colleague, to come on board, and then let us have his own idea from the perspective of a professional journalist, the vice president of Nigerian Guild of Editors. Ken Ubeche, my brother, please, you are welcome. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. A pleasure to be here. I'll be speaking like a journalist, so I'll be touching here and there. And I'll, as much as possible, I'll try and be pragmatic too. Let me also say the ball rolling this way, that there is no monolithic society. There is no society that's monolithic. There is no organization that is monolithic. Therefore, even in situations where people speak the same language, share the same religion, the fact that they are separated by boundaries into various communities, towns, and local governments, states, etc., creates a sort of diversity. So diversity is always in your face as a leader, whether you are leading a small office, a big office, a state, a local government, or a nation. There is always diversity staring in your face. So how do you do it? How do you manage this diversity? Diversity could be a function of ethnic nationality, as we see in Nigeria. It could be race, as we see in America. There's a race issue there brewing even now. It could also be as a function of language, geographical delineation, physical challenges, which some people call disability. I call it physical challenge. It could also be gender. Therefore, every leader must come into leadership cognizant of this one fact. Hence, such a leader must make deliberate effort. I use the word deliberate here. I also use that word deliberate, deliberately. A leader must be deliberate, make deliberate effort to integrate these various persons into his or her team to achieve inclusion. It is when inclusion is achieved that we are talking of integration. Now, inclusion does not happen by accident. It has never happened by accident anywhere. It is usually intentional, achieved by the conscious efforts of the leader. So there must be a consciousness to achieve inclusion. I will focus essentially on leadership at the macro level of the public space, now the federal level, because that is where all other segments of the superstructure called Nigeria draw their strength. But first, let us consider just a few examples of where we have diversity and how they have dealt with it or failed to deal with it. Today, this morning, I just woke up to a trending video on social media that accused President Donald Trump of appointing 198 judges. Listen to this, please. Since he came into office just over 3 years ago, he has appointed 198 judges in the US. But guess what? None of them is black. None of the 198 judges is black. That's by a president. When the leader of a nation with the diversity of the United States makes such appointments, it creates room for agitation. It creates room for bickering and rife on the ground of exclusion. People of color will feel justified to rail at the president for obvious bias and discrimination. Often people put out the argument of merit.
There is no group, ethnic, religious, physically challenged community, race, that you cannot find eminently qualified persons. We are all witnesses to the rising spate of discrimination against blacks in the US. Why? Why is it so sudden these days? Not because of the body language and pronouncements of their president, who is perceived to openly show messages of white supremacy. And it's obvious. The Newton's law says action and reaction are equal and opposite. Another way to put it that to every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. It is the interpretation that they give to what their president tells them that makes the white supremacists begin to unleash their claws on the blacks and people of color, early blacks. That's a challenge. Now, I want to go to another country before I come to Nigeria. There is a country in Europe called Switzerland. It's a very beautiful country. In fact, one of the most peaceful nations on the face of the earth, and one of the most beautiful nations is Switzerland. But something happened to them because they realized their background, their diversity of their culture, their language, and their history. In 1967, they jettisoned what we know as presidential system of government. To evolve their own, they introduced a 7-member federal council executive. It's like having 7 presidents at a time, where one president serves as president for a year and rotates among the 7 members for 7 years. Not one person will take a decision. All the 7 take the decision. Of course, it's an odd number, so voting is easier. But why did they have to do that? They wanted to achieve inclusivity and integration from their own special diversity. So they have to bring everybody on board. That's an example that has worked. It's working. Now let me come to Nigeria. Nigeria has over 250 ethnic groups with over 300 languages and dialects. This one ought to be a challenge. But every leader must turn adversity to advantage. That is why you are a leader or a great leader. This alone demands emotional intelligence on the part of the leader to ensure that integration and inclusion are both achieved from the wellspring of diversity. Good leadership does not exclude. There is no good leadership that excludes. It includes, it integrates. It does not alienate and does not marginalize any group, even if that group is the tiniest of minorities. So how do we deal with our diversity so that it does not become a burden and brew bitterness, but a source of our collective strength and brotherhood? I recall one man that I used to love so much, the late Melford Okilo. He once proposed the collegiate presidential system in this country. He's from a minority, but I guess what made him to do that was seeing how marginalized his own people were at that time. I think he's a German from Bayelsa axis. In my opinion, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo as president stands out as the best Nigerian leader in terms of making deliberate effort to achieve integration through inclusive leadership from our diversity. He deliberately showed inclusivity in cabinet appointments and other appointments, sacrificing merit. I'm not a fan of Chief Obasanjo, not a fan of his persona and his mannerisms, but it is difficult to fault him on the ground of having a grand vision in seeing Nigeria as one nation where social justice and equity should reign, and making conscious effort at sustaining national integration through inclusive appointments as a way of maximizing our diversity. Our incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari, I'm sorry to say, has not done enough. Not that he's not tried, he has not done enough in this regard. We cannot have the head of the Army, Ministry of Defense, head of Air Force, DSS, NSCDC, Immigration, EFCC, the NSA, from one part of the country. His utterances have not also promoted integration and inclusion either. Therefore, I expect him to step up. Simply put, he has not managed our diversity well to the advantage and common good of the nation. I will end by making the following submissions.
every Nigerian leader, whether as president, governor, legislator, minister, local government chairman, head of a startup, or leader in the private sector, or in whatever capacity you find yourself, you must recognize the place of diversity in our pluralistic society. Such a leader should therefore, as a matter of responsibility, take deliberate actions, the word again, deliberate actions and steps to evolve integration and inclusivity for the diversity of the environment. We should by now be conscious and intentional in the appointment of persons with physical challenges into positions of influence. Let me give us an example. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a Democrat. He was elected as second president of the United States in 1932. But he was elected on a wheelchair, and he won by a landslide. A man on a wheelchair won by a landslide. And he did very well. And guess what? He is the only one today who has ruled America for 3 terms. It was actually into the 4th term. It was actually 2 months and 21 days into the 4th term when he died. As we speak now, we have people in Argentina, in Canada, who are physically challenged, who are holding positions of authority. Daniel Scioli, former vice president and current governor of Argentina's biggest province, is one of them. He lost a right arm in an accident while racing. He's an amputee. Diane Finley, Canada's Minister of Human Resources and Skills Development, is visually impaired. Visually impaired person. That's a blind person. The same Canada has 7 members of parliament at various levels who are physically challenged. 7 of them. Let me go to Israel. The Knesset is the legislature of Israel. They have a cameral legislature. But as I speak to you, they have 5 members of Knesset who are living with physical challenges. 5 members as we speak now. The list is long from around the world. And I'm saying that in Nigeria, we can play the politics of inclusion. We can achieve it if we muster the will and if we are intentional and deliberate about it. It's achievable. And I think opportunities like this, forums like this, if we keep talking about it, if we keep evangelizing about it and crusading about it, both in the social media and the traditional media, and everywhere we go, I think in the next coming years, there will be a switch. There will be a change of momentum. I want to rest my case here. Thank you very much.
My brother, you are just too much. Yes, you are a representative of journalists in Nigeria, truly. I really commend you for making us to go through the emotional intelligence necessity as a factor and master key for leadership that will drive success and development. You also took us to the global windows of opportunities where the physically and other impaired citizens of various countries are treated well. Treated like human beings who are perfect, experts. Really challenge, physically challenge. Invisible, any kind of challenge. I believe sincerely that we have gotten a real reason to rethink leadership. I would now like to call Senator Ida back to give us a rewind of that wonderful foundation laid so that we have the other elements of the build-up. So, my distinguished Senator Katsina.
See, Sir Stanley.
You have the floor, sir. Hello, sir.
Moderator, Dr. Oladele. Hello, Dr. Oladele, if you can hear me. While we are waiting for Senator
I'm hearing you very well.
Going into the next tranche, we want to hear from the partners and from the participants.
Okay.
We have Chief Mrs. Awomolo, a distinguished lawyer, a mother, a senior advocate of Nigeria, who will be speaking, making intervention on behalf of the International Federation of Female Lawyers. We also have Professor Mosto Onoha, who is the president, Nigerian Academy of Science, and one of the designers of the 8 measurement criteria for leadership in Nigeria. We also have Dr. John Adejiro-Oluwa, who is the editor-in-chief of Plummet Publishing. And we also have Mr. Tolu Akinmayowa, who is standing in for the Trade Union Congress. And as we get more indications, we will let you know. But these are the ones who have, who we want to take their comments. I don't know if Senator Ida is back now. Okay, Dr. Oladele is also back. So back to you. Back to you, Mr. Moderator.
Distinguished Senator Ida, are we having you now? Are you around, sir?
Okay, well, we can go on with Chief Mrs. Awomolo.
Yes, Chief Mrs. Awomolo can have the floor.
Because of time.
Yes.
Usually interventions from partners are for 3 minutes. So,
yes,
Madam Awomolo, you have the floor for 3 minutes. Technical team, can you please, let's have. Okay, I'm being told by the technical group that her audio is weak, that she should log out and log in again.
Okay.
Mr. Moderator, can we now go to Professor Mosto Onoha, all the way from Enugu?
Yes, with all pleasure.
Not standing in, but he's the president of Nigerian Academy of Science, so he's speaking for them.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd just like to, again, commend the Nigerian Prize for Leadership. You see, when we're talking about rethinking leadership, we've considered this about the 4th edition, and today we are focusing on diversity, integration, and inclusion. I'm so glad about the people that have been brought on board to speak, because many times when people are talking about inclusion and diversity, our minds go
often to the diverse nature of our population. We talk about tribes, you come from here, I come from there. And we talk about ethnicity, I think about religion, which we know are all different in this nation. But I'm particularly glad that we did not forget, and the MPL has gone ahead to, because diversity means a lot more than just that. Talking about the challenged and people who have all other kinds of things associated with them, and that we often ignore them. And that is very excellent. I think we've had some very good presentations. Very, very good. Lady Kayete speaking, and Senator Ida, of course. And of course, Jake made a passionate case with concrete recommendations. All I would like to say is that it is important, as we rethink leadership in Nigeria, to actually ensure that our leaders are prepared to imbibe a culture of inclusion. A culture of inclusion that concrete actions are taken. If it means passing some laws, the kind of things we've had some of them. Senator, distinguished senator talks about even the things that give some people advantage in that, and he said beyond that. So our affirmative action should go beyond just religion or where you come from, but actually make sure that any leader who is not representing the totality of our people is not doing well. So we must have governance that takes care of every area of people. I'm glad some people are doing it. There are organizations that are doing very well. For example, JAMB has reached out. Many people may not know about what JAMB is doing to the challenged, with visually challenged candidates, holding things separate for them, making them feel the federal might and that they are important. But other organizations have to do that and follow suit also. I think we're on the right track. I think we're doing well. And I think we have got very many concrete recommendations from our panelists. I think we have enough to carry on even for the next one. But the topic is important. Diversity is very important. It's one of the greatest problems we have in Nigeria today. Inclusiveness and integration. Religion, ethnicity, and all that, and challenged or not, it's a major issue. We have to rethink it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I am told that Mrs. Awumolo, Chief Mrs. Awumolo is back to the house. Can we please have her on the floor for the next 3 minutes? She's going to speak with us. She's going to talk to us as a representative of FIDA. So, madam, you are welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello? Yes.
We can hear you very well, ma'am.
Thank you, the organizers. Thank you, everyone. Let me quickly say that I recognize Iyom Aneni. And I want to just say straight away that the usual phrase, the usual thing we say in Nigeria, we say there is strength in our diversity. But in actual practice, do we see this happening? And the consensus from what we have heard this evening is no. Leadership is all about using people to get desired results. And a leader must identify the potentials in every part of the country, in every person. It is not just about looking at one side of the country. Iyom said that there's no woman on Security Council. Is that why we are still having problems with our security challenges? The judiciary has fared very well. We have had women leaders who have come up to head the judiciary. But in the executive and the legislature, a lot still has to be done. We have never had a woman attorney general of the Federation. Ghana has had it, Ghana has done it. We know how and why Rwanda is doing very well. There are more women in the parliament of Rwanda than men. And so we are saying That's why are women not being used? We talked about affirmative action. Why is this percentage that is at least a third of our governance in the executive, the legislature, be women? So quickly, because I have 3 minutes, let me go to my recommendations. And just before that, we know what happened just a few days in Canada, where a Nigerian lawyer became the Minister of Justice. Can that happen in Nigeria? Do you know what amount of support that we give to the country of Canada? The problem of our country is the lack of inclusiveness and integration in government. So let me read my recommendations quickly. We must have a leader of vision who knows what he wants to get in the few years he wants to rule. He must be fair and firm with the requisite political will. He must recognize the potentials in people and maximize them. And he must be on top of the game to avoid psychopathy and misadvice. And against the obvious denial of women to win elective positions in Nigeria, I'm advocating for a constitutional amendment to give 1/3 of every senatorial constituency elections to women in Nigeria to compete for exclusively, or ditto for the constituencies to go to the House of Representatives, and for the state, and even for the local government legislatures and the state legislature. We are not saying, and nobody can say that we don't have qualified women in Nigeria to lead in every sphere of leadership. But we are being relegated to the background because of whatever means. So for the political elective positions, if we don't have enough, because we don't have enough muscle or enough financial power to slug it out with the men, let us have 1/3 of every election in every state, local government assigned for women. Women will compete for those elections. And I see, and I pray that I will live to see a day when all the 3 senatorials will come from a state will be women, and all we will now have women, more women in our legislature. In governance, in appointed positions, women have been seen and to have the requisite energy. We are more transparent, we are more accountable, we are more fair, and we are fair. And so these things should be given to us. Women in Nigeria are crying, we are groaning, because we see opportunities that we can come into, and we are being denied. The Constitution of Nigeria does not discriminate against any gender. It is the handiwork of our leaders. And so we are calling on our leaders. We are calling on the president that, look, it is about time he gave women the chance to be in leadership position in Nigeria. And we have known in the few things that we have handled, you know.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Can we now listen to Dr. John Adejoro Olua from the Plumette Publishing?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Am I being heard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Once again, I just want to thank MPL for another wonderful outing, particularly on the topic of today, rethinking leadership on the area of diversity, inclusion, and integration. Wonderful. I don't have much to say because all those who have spoken, the panelists, those who have contributed, they have spoken wonderfully. Like I always say, in Nigeria, we do not lack ideas, we do not lack people who can speak out the truth, and that has been done to decade wonderfully. And so I'm not going to say more. The word I keep hearing from everybody who has spoken is that we must be deliberate, we must be intentional. We must be deliberate, we must be intentional, and pray that we have a leader at the top who will be emotionally connected to all Nigerians, all sectors, and who will be willing to be deliberate and be intentional, both to find other policies and structures to accommodate everyone. And I do hope that after and done, MPL will have a way of not only having us speak, maybe a way to make certain recommendations so that all that we are hearing, the beautiful things that Nigerians are saying on this forum, will become a reality. I want to thank you again for the opportunity. I've been blessed to listen to Nigerians again who have spoken passionately about this topic. And I do pray that
Okay, I hear you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming back again to me. I think there are two things we really have to zero on if we want to make a headway in finding the leaders or a leader that has all the prerequisites and all the qualifications we have enumerated. Unfortunately, and this is really unfortunately, we tend to have the belief that anyone can be a leader or that anyone can be in a leadership position. These are two totally and completely different things. While not everyone can be a leader, in Nigeria, anyone can be in a leadership position for the reason that you don't go through the normal protocols. No, you should suck it. That is one thing. And two, somehow, right from the onset, all this notion or the issue of integration was always saying it. Let's take a typical case. Look at the NYSC. It was designed to ensure that the youth really move and walk and familiarize themselves with environments other than their own. That was why when we started in the 70s, we were sent to Anambra at that time, and we got to know. That was my first exposure to that environment. When I went to Ibadan University, it was my first time of being there, and I have come up to appreciate that there is talent everywhere. So really, let us mean what we say and say what we mean. Now, the other thing is really, if we want to integrate, we just have to start from the cradle. We have to bring up our children believing that they are Nigerians. 3, all this issue of affirmation, not of people, our brethren that and sister that is from disability, but to say that, you see, you can give an incentive within the short run. But if you make any incentive a permanent feature, you are undermining your own system, because in the end, the very thing you want to achieve, you make people lazy, you make people to be hated. So really, these are things that we have to address if we want to get the right quality of leadership. But most importantly and finally, we just have to have clearly defined protocols through which we can elect or select or up. We should not be left the way we are going. In 1999, the election then was as fair as it could be. But in 2019, compare the two. So while we are supposed to be making progress, we are going down. And until we are able to handle the issue of leadership, we are not going anywhere. All this issue of integration, inclusiveness.
It seems we have some difficulties with the senators.
Yes, we can't hear him again.
Oh my God, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Okay, he's back.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that all the protocol, all things, inclusiveness, integration, management of diversity, they are good concepts and we all love them. But the problem is until you can get the committed, the well-oriented, and then the leader that can really see selfless, and I like that. The selfless. He has to say things not because they will benefit him, but because they will benefit the generality of the people. And until we can say that, and until we can instill that, as all I have heard here is every sector asking for something for itself. Yes, I agree. And that obviously our brothers and sisters with disability, they need. I have my own son is disabled, and I love any other of my kids. But the fact is that whenever we come, everybody wants a portion of the cake, but nobody wants to partake in the cake of the cake. We have a leader that will say, and we are very experts in the art of compromises. A leader will come with sincerity and the conviction of doing the right thing. But the moment he is on the ground, his own people, quote and unquote, will be the first people that will tell him that now is our opportunity, now is our chance. Or if a leader or a person in position of leadership commits any form of felony or crime, the fact that the first people to come and say it is our money, it is our own people he is hurting, not yours, so please don't go after him until we sit down and the same sense of value for all we achieve the position we are willing to achieve, or we are internally and in our relationship with other nations. We need to be committed. We need to have clearly defined protocols and criteria for elect. Like that, you see, come take in the decision or in the process. We need to have an all-encompassing and all-embracing system of ensuring that a leadership emerges based on clearly and intellectually accepted criteria, which we have adequately enumerated here. Then, only then, can we be a United Nations of Africa. Thank you very much. Are you with me?
Thank you, sir. So can we quickly listen to Akimoyewa?
Good evening, sirs and mas. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I've been listening to the speakers.
Yes, I hear you.
All right, thank you. I've been listening to the speakers, and from what I could garner from what has been said so far, I totally believe that it is not enough. It is not enough for us to just talk about these things here. I believe that the people we are talking about, the subject matter of this discussion, I believe they need to be interested also. They need to be interested in leadership also, because there's only so much one can do for a person that is not interested. Hello? Hello?
Go ahead.
We can hear you. We can hear you very well.
So I believe that even the people we're talking about, youths, women, and people living with disability of whatever form, I believe they also need to show interest in leadership and leadership positions. I believe that if they are not interested, they won't be able to do much. And I also believe that these things, we need to deal with them from the foundation. I believe that if these qualities are inculcated from childhood, from the foundation, and issues of discrimination against people with disabilities, if those things are dealt with, I totally believe that they will be included, to be easier to include them in the whole leadership process. And that's my take on the whole of this conversation so far. And I believe that inclusion involves interest. For you to include somebody, the person has to be interested in it. Because I've seen people that are not interested in leadership, people shy away from leadership positions, even if they're put there, they run away from there. So I think that even if no matter what we do here, no matter how much we talk about it, if they are not interested, then there's only little that can be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was a very time-conscious intervention. I hope everybody is hearing me now.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. We had a very wonderful foundation laid by Senator Ida, telling us what leadership is, the role and duties, and also how far we have gone as a nation in leadership. Then Madam Iyom took it over from there to show us further frontiers calling for efforts, what we must do again to get it better. And Mr. Kwele was able to tell us the types of leaders and what makes success or failure out of leadership. My sister, Lady Ekaite, made us to understand rethinking disability is the master key to rethinking inclusion, rethinking development, rethinking integration, and rethinking the, inclusiveness. So that's a great one. And I said to Iyom and the Lady Ekaite, winning that these women, elderly ones, impaired Nigerians and youths, these are competencies we must go back to give them their allocation of power.
Again. It looks like
you can't hear me again. Are you here?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
You are clear, sir.
I can hear you.
I can hear him perfectly.
Yes, I can hear him very well.
You can speak on, sir.
Okay.
Right on, Doctor. We can hear you.
Okay, Dr. Oladele, I understand you are mistakenly muted. Okay, but while we are waiting for him to come back.
Hello.
Okay, go on then.
What I'm saying is that Madam Iyom and Lady Ekaite and Mukhtar were able to convince us that we need to go back to the society and recruit and give access to women, impaired Nigerians, elderly Nigerians, and the youth, so that our leadership selection platform can be complete, rather than those who have the power to muzzle everybody down, taking everything. So this is what we have learned, and I think the Executive Secretary will now take it from there to get us the concrete takeaways that we need to go with. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, moderator. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much. We have a few questions on the platform, which we would want the panelists to kindly take note of so that they can use the short time available to respond to these questions. Thereafter, we will take the closing remarks and the resolutions that have come out of this session. We have Mr. Abacha, who said, what strategies can be used to assist students with severe disabilities in a non-inclusive setting? Abacha came in from Ijebu-Ode in Ogun State. We would want Mrs. Aneni to kindly take this question. What strategies can be used to assist students with severe disabilities in a non-inclusive setting? I take it again. What strategies can be used to assist students with severe disabilities in a non-inclusive setting? Then we have Bilkisu Ado Zango, who says, how do we then get to make our leaders more inclusive and accountable? We would want the distinguished Sarana Katsina to kindly take on this question from Bilkisu Ado Zango. How do we then get to make our leaders more inclusive and accountable? We also have from Mustafa Olajide. Mustafa Olajide's question is, as part of the measure to rethinking leadership, is there any legislation reviewing the 35 years age limit for employment? Because there are more than millions of youths out there who lost their dreams and aspirations in an employment they have in mind. Again, we will request distinguished Senator Eda to kindly, as a former lawmaker, to take on this. I repeat the question, as part of the measure to rethinking leadership, is there any legislation reviewing the 35 years age limit for employment? Because there are more than millions of youths out there who lost their dreams and aspirations in an employment they have in mind. We'll also quickly go to the chat column, where we have a lot of chats, but we won't be able to take all of them because of time. But we have from Abdulmumini Uja, who had raised issue earlier about sign language, but that has already been addressed. We also have from Ede, Mother General of Nigeria speaking. Okay, she was paying tribute to Iyom Josephine Aneni. Okay, well, the charts are there for us to look at. They are not basically questions, they are commendations and appreciations. I want to recognize Ramatu Ahmad, who joined from Kaduna, from Center for Empowering Women with Physical Disabilities Initiatives. There is also Ofyong Okon, State Special Leader. Oh, okay, sorry. Anyway, it's all right, it's all inclusion. State Special Leader, All Progressives Congress, Cross River State Chapter. And then we have Louisa Eikomu, promoting female leadership. Leadership should be inclusive and having women in the room of decision-making, not outside. And several others. Because of our time, I will now yield the floor to distinguished Senator Eda to respond. Sir, you have 2 minutes to kindly respond because we have limited time available. Kindly respond to the questions. Thereafter, we go to Mrs. Aneni. You can also use the opportunity to give us your closing remarks, sir. Thereafter, we go to Mrs. Aneni, Iyom Josephine Aneni, and then we take it from there. Distinguished Senator Eda, please, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Now the questions are two. What the one that are earmarked to me?
We can't hear you, sir.
Well,
I can hear him.
Yeah. Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay, he said, what the questioner, one of the questioners said, how do we get our leaders to be more inclusive and accountable? I think there are two, I can think of two ways. First of all, it starts from the selection or the election process. People should really be mindful of the type of person they will elect or they will select, if that is the case. If you select the person with the qualification and the traits and the attributes we have already stated in this discuss, you will end up with a leader that will be responsive. You will end up with a leader that will be useful, the one that will be accountable. But then, how do you make them accountable? You can make them easily become impossible. Call them to account. At the moment, we have a lot of docility and complexity. Whatever a leader does, whatever he does, is accepted so long as it comes from a particular religious group, a particular ethnic group, or a particular section of the polity. I think we just have to account and then call anybody to order and use the same basis for consideration of anybody. That way we can call our people to account. Now, the issue of youth rejection of age limit, I don't think really, okay, fine, that will include the population, but it will not substantially affect the results until there is a concerted effort to do so. In the last election, most of the new parties fielded young people. And where did they go? In fact, some of them were the first to come and start uploading the elections. They formed an association and quickly went and pledged their allegiance to the leader. I mean, the young people should first of all purge themselves of that sense of entitlement. You have to fight for it. You have to, it is the youth that elect. They are the people that are mobilized. Mobilize for yourselves. Don't allow yourself to be, it's just like somebody calling you, giving you drugs, giving you weapons, and asking you to go and call him. Ask him to bring his own child to be along with you. The young people should really know that they are not entitled to anything if we are to have an issue of inclusiveness. The young and the old, they have the same rights. Of course, they may be operating from the different pedestal, but please go and fight for what you want. Don't wait and expect that everybody will stand in. After all, everybody is exposed to the same problems. If you don't have money, you don't have connection, you are as good as dead politically. So please go out, mobilize, call people, leaders to account, and then ensure that at the end of it, you now assert your claim. But if you sit down and you think that somebody will simply bring it out to you because you are young, don't forget that the old people were young at one time. And at that particular time, nobody gave them anything. If you now fight, you will be able to get it. He who tries will succeed. But if you don't try,